Hey, this is Mark Henry, author of Dancing with Energy, Healing, Magic, and Mysticism, here to talk to you more about the occult and the paranormal. Well, today's topic is going to be psychology in the world of magic, specifically the psychology of entering the world of magic. Before I begin, I just want to mention a few things. One of which is that I've recently added some attunements to my attunement store on Etsy. So if you all are interested in increasing your psychic sensitivity, I added one Genius Psychic Powers. It involves the Genius Spirits, also Genius Charisma. So if you want to become more charming, if you want to be able to be more influential, then that's a good attunement for you. I also put in the Goetic Spirit 4S, which isn't typically put in stores like mine. So if you want to level up your magic, improve your life, and to exert an influence on your environment, then check out my attunement store. I'll put a link in the description. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to be talking about a little bit about the psychology of entering the world of magic. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be talking mainly about with broad strokes, a little bit of in a more of a general sense rather than a particular sense. So I'm not going to be talking about magical techniques or anything like that, but overall themes of how to become, I guess, what it requires to become a magician and become, maybe even a superb magician. So the first thing to remember is that one has to do magic, enough magic, in order to integrate it. I guess you can think of it as into the identity level. And that is magic that seeps into you. So there's a difference between being a magician and being somebody who sees a spell in a book and just does it. One is a part of life. The other one is just something that you do. And if you choose to not be, integrated at identity level, then that is fine. If you just kind of want to dabble, everybody's in their own uh, stages and have their own goals. But there is a difference. The second thing that is required is that you should be grounded in the finite, the material world, that which is around us. And at the same time, you must be connected to the infinite. Why mention the finite world? Because that is where magic expresses itself. That is what, when you're working with the energy, when you're doing what you do, that is how it's going to come to be, how it's going to come to pass. You're going to see something visibly. Also, when we're talking about the physical world, you need to have a foothold into it in order to, if there's any type of action that you need to take, so that that magic can attach itself to and make those actions even stronger. And that, in fact, that is the best case scenario, that you have something enchantable and that there are things in the world that you are connected to that can make new opportunities emerge and new possibilities. So you must squarely face the material world and the infinite. Now, the next thing is that, and has to do with psychological states. You have to cultivate states of openness and flexibility in order to successfully engage in magic. One, you need to be able to imagine what is not present in your life. So that takes imagination. What could be, what might be, what may be. And that is something that is reflection of your psychology. Sometimes when people are depressed or anxious, the world becomes small. Their mind was only focusing on a few things. But when we focus on possibility and the infinite, then we are much able to kind of get what we want done. Another thing that I believe, and I've seen this before too, other magicians have said it, is that to be a superb magician, you cannot just study magic alone, unless you come across some authors who incorporate a lot of different things. Because to understand magic is to understand multiple worlds, including the physical world that you inhabit. So when mentioning the things that I just talked about, I'm going to mention some areas that I've studied and would be good for you to study. One, there is the idea that once that you are doing a working, that you have some sort of a little bit of detachment. That is to prevent a lot of grasping and psychological attachment, which can interfere with the working. So the areas to study would be more meditation in order to manage your thoughts, non-attachment, mindfulness, those sorts of practices in order to be able to develop the witness consciousness, to be the observer of your thoughts and feelings, and to kind of let them go, let them flow through you. That is a barrier, especially to earlier magicians that are neophytes, ones that are kind of new into the field. The next one would be poetry. Now you say, why poetry of all things? Well, when you are designing or writing specific words for spells or any other type of magical working, is that you need to be able to connect with language that evokes emotion. And the best way to do that is to look at poetry. Even poetry has meter, it has rhythm. And that is something you can even include in it if that's something that you have somewhat of training in or good at. But the ability to use language through your voice and in your writing, maybe for petitions, poetry can help you with that. And by the way, what I'm mentioning is holistic learning. It's when you study one thing in order to learn about something else. It's an indirect way of becoming, a more skilled magician, and to have the fundamentals and the structure there to make it flourish. So I guess when you're talking about poetry itself, and also when your poetry is good for the stressing and unstressing of the meter. When you're looking at magic that is part of other languages, that's another area. If you want to study the Kabbalah, it might be good to learn Hebrew. If you want to learn some of the Santa Muerte stuff, Spanish. And there's a particular way of saying those words, just like poetry has. It's an art in itself. And what do you stress and what do you not stress in reading poetry? Music. But I'm not going to just talk about music, but poetry is part of the arts, which I greatly endorse learning a little bit about, having some working knowledge of. Music, writing, singing, chanting, that is part of chanting, saying things in a certain way. So music, singing, writing, art mediums, painting, all of those can connect you with your creativity, with your ability to bring something out of nothing. Design your own magical interventions. You can connect with creativity through different creative mediums and harness that for your magic. So that is basically it. I didn't want to make this video too long, but those are my thoughts about entering the world of magic through psychology. So we're creative states, states of openness, states of flexibility, and some of my recommendations about being grounded in the finite and the infinite. So let me know what you think. Please comment. Please subscribe and like. I'll put a link to the description at the bottom. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. And I will talk to you at a future time. All right.